I'm just gonna go ahead and save this starting scene and then hop into this one here. All right, and so I've set up some of the kind of test elements in here, and we can go ahead and delete some of these for the videos. Whoop. The top level, and this guy here. And then for now, I'll just delete this UI, but you could, again, kind of keep this in here if you wanted, and we don't necessarily need the fade cube anymore either. All right, so right now this is kind of a similar scene to what I had before. I have the camera rig here, which is the Steamvr Camera Rig, and that's positioned here at 000. And then the next thing I have is this, where is he here? The maze character. And so this maze character is from kind of the one of the free Unity asset store packages that we provide. And what I'm going to do to configure him and kind of get the VR system working is actually zero him out. So we can do that and change his rotation and his scale as well. And then we'll remove a lot of these components because I don't really need these for this system here. And there's actually a couple that I didn't import, so you'll see the warnings there like that. And so now what we have is a character in the scene. He's positioned here at 000, and now you can see underneath him he has kind of this skeletal structure. So if you're familiar with kind of the way that 3D modeling works, is that you build up the geometry of a character, and then you build up its kind of skeletal structure or its bones, and that's what people call rigs. And then with those rigs, you kind of paint the influence of the geometry on top of it. And so what this IK system is doing is it's basically trying to solve some positional data between two joints. And so just to kind of give a small little drawing of how that works is that basically we have something like the shoulder joint over here, and then we have like the hand over here. And between that we have this elbow joint. And so what we're doing is these are connected like that. And as we move this joint here at the end, so if we move this to be like something like this, and we have this here, now we need to figure out where this joint is going to be. And so because we're working kind of backwards down the chain here, this is where we need to have this solver to determine the position of this elbow joint. And as we kind of go backwards as we move this out over here, we're going to get a pattern like this. And so this is like the big kind of technical challenge that's going on here with this inverse kinematics. This is basically the mathematics and the kind of solution here to solve where we put these kind of center joints all throughout the body. And so in order to set that up here in Unity, what we need to do is apply this VRIK script, and we need to basically reference all of the bones in the character here. And so you'll see that right now there's this big list of references, and then down here in the solver, that's where we'll apply kind of those positions that we're trying to go towards. So for the references, you'll notice that a lot of these are named kind of the exact same as what you would find in in normal kind of humans or bones or normal kind of body parts. So we'll start with the root, and that's going to be this, and then I'm just going to start kind of walking down these kind of these implementations here. And so the first one we're going to do is the hips here for the pelvis, and then the spine. So where's the spine? Right there. And this one happens to be laid out really nicely, but most of the time in a production environment, you're also going to get a similar kind of layout to this. So for the chest, we're going to be looking for spine 2. And then we can kind of keep dropping down here, and you'll notice the neck, and then under the neck is going to be the head, and kind of so on. And you'll see, again, this is this happens to kind of match pretty well with this, but in most production environments and in most kind of game ready assets that are going to be like fully rigged characters, you'll find these named very similarly, and these matching up pretty close to what we're looking at here. Like that, and then the forearm again, and the hand. And then now for the left thigh, that's going to be up here, right there. Oop. So we have the foot and the toe bone goes to the left toes. And then now basically the opposite for the right. Like that. And like that. All right, so now we've basically set up all these references, and this is kind of a little bit of the tedious part, but once we have it, then we can start playing around and assigning these solvers. So by default, we can put the solvers to be the motion controllers, so the 2 controllers for the Vive, and then the head-mounted display is where we're going to be positioning the head. So you can see the left arm and the right arm here, and so for those, I'm going to take my camera rig and go controller right arm, and then for the left one I can just do, again, this is the target here, and then for the spine you can see that it's looking for a head target, and for that I'm going to do, the camera eye here. So we can go camera eye. And now if I position this correctly, I'm going to try to turn my gizmos down a little bit. And I will need to re-enable VR here to get this working. Go ahead and save our scene. And now if I go ahead and hit play, you should see my character start to move. Now you'll notice he's kind of doing a weird cross arm thing, and that's because I haven't picked up my controllers yet. But once I get those down here and position those, you'll see that I can now kind of control my body here. I'm moving the arms. This is the solver that's happening as I outstretch my arm on both sides here. And what I really like about this is that I can pretty clearly see my shadow. So I can, kind of get excited here, or I can bend down and do some kind of interesting movements here. And so what's nice about this is it really gives you a kind of body presence in VR. And so if you've ever done any social VR or any sort of kind of online applications, this is kind of a really important factor, kind of representing your own body or the body and avatars of other characters. So you can see that just by kind of setting up a lot of those references to the specific bones with this rig, and then applying the solver there for the camera, or for the head, and then the 2 controllers, that we can kind of put ourselves inside any sort of character, really. One thing I did want to note here is that the kind of size and scale of this character is definitely something to keep in mind. So I think that 1-to-1, this character is a little bit smaller than me, and so I can actually just go ahead and scale this up a little bit like that, and now it'll more accurately represent my body size and scale, and so that is something you'll need to keep in mind as you do that. So you can see me putting on the headset here, and so now this actually feels a little bit closer to what my hands are and how my body works here. And so I can do some like karate chops, or throw up some signs, do some like clapping here as well. And so it's pretty nice how well these elbows work. The human elbows, you can turn them and twist them, but you can't really, invert them. And so this is able to do that inverse kinematic solving that I was talking about in order to really accurately mold this. And it's also doing it on the body here. So I'm actually bending down, and it's noticing that my head is going lower, and so it knows that it has to be bending my knees and my torso there for setting that up. Another couple things just to keep in mind when setting up this VR IK system is definitely consider kind of the geometry around the face and your near clipping plane for your camera. So, this one happens to be the kind of Valve Camera Rig, so it has a pretty close one, and that allows you to not necessarily like see your head, but if things are a little bit off and kind of depending on the complexity of your character, you might start seeing features kind of right in front of your face. And to get rid of that, I just suggest kind of playing around with this clipping plane on the camera to find the right distance where you can still see your body and your arms, but you're not seeing like facial features of the actual character.